Hello and welcome to Tuesday Live. I am Omini Oden. Today we shall be looking at the increase in electricity tariff and other matters, as well as proactive measures in curtailing the first case of COVID-19. Nigerians woke Friday to the news of the first case of coronavirus through an Italian man who authorities said arrived in Nigeria from Milan in the evening of Friday 24th and did not have symptoms when the plane landed. Since the incident, governments at all levels and relevant bodies have been walking the talk to curtail the disease. It is in line with this that an interministerial and multi-sectoral meeting on preparedness and response to the global scourge was held in Abuja. A meeting highly commended, given the proactive and synergy to protect people in Nigeria from the disease that has been a nightmare for many countries like France, Italy, Iran, South Korea, Japan and China, the burden country of the COVID-19. To set the discussion, we take this report by Rabi Abdallah.
When the maiden meeting of the Interministerial and Multisectoral Preparedness and Response on COVID-19 was convened on the 31st of January this year, Nigeria was in a secured state from the disease. The agenda and focus of this follow-up meeting is therefore a more brainstorming one for obvious reason. Ministers of the line ministries and representatives of relevant agencies involved in the preparedness and response on the disease took turns to highlight efforts and challenges, with the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, driving the health component.
Opportunity to assure Nigerians that the Federal Ministry of Health has been strengthening measures to ensure that an outbreak in Nigeria is controlled and contained. A multi-sectoral corona preparedness group led by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has been activated at its Emergency Operations Center, and we work closely with Lagos State health authorities to respond to this case and implement firm control measures.
We have control of our FRCM platform. We don't have control of the state's platforms, and the state platforms are probably much more important for this kind of advocacy than the federal government platform. So please, we appeal to all state governments that this is not political. This is about Nigeria.
The immediate national investment, which we really want this honorable house to do or to address, the national stockpile of response commodities, the renovation and strengthening of treatment centers, digitalization of surveillance and contact tracing across the country.
For the port health, I think there's a need to see synchronization or harmonization of the information from those who enter the country vis-a-vis the data that is being collected by NCDC. How do we track these people?
What lies ahead is an action plan that identifies gaps where prevention, response and containment of COVID-19 is concerned. At a news conference that preceded the meeting, the health minister reiterated that there is no new case of COVID-19 apart from the index case on Lagos.
Curtailing the first case of COVID-19 in Nigeria, and that report by Rabi Abdallah set the tone for the discussion on the first leg of the program tonight. Tuesday Live is an audience participatory program. At some point, our phone lines will be opened and you put your calls through, raise your concerns. And when the call is through to you, please turn down the volume of your television set to avoid the hallback or the echo. Also, you can join the conversation through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. My guest on the first leg is Dr. John Oladejo. Dr. John Oladejo is the Director, Health, Emergency Preparedness and Response, Incidents Manager, COVID-19 Response Emergency Operations Center. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the development quite disturbing, stunning globally, developments in the minutes, but our concern is Nigeria. Where are we by the minutes? What's the update on your way here? A lot of developments will have happened. What's the update?
Oh, thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I will still, have to give us the antecedents. As you rightly know, on the 27th of February 2020, we recorded the first case, and that first case was an index case from it's an Italian citizen who works in Nigeria and returned from Italy to Lagos on the 25th, as the Honorable Minister has directly said. So he traveled to Ogun State, for a business meeting, and fell ill. They checked for malaria and was negative. The physician that actually treated the patient, had an index of suspicion, very high index of suspicion, and was able to really recall where the patient was coming from, and was quickly, able to refer this patient to IDH in Lagos. And that was the first case we had. And since then, we have not had any other case again. The patient, as I'm talking to you now, is clinically stable with no serious symptoms, and is being managed at the Infectious Disease Hospital hereby in Lagos. So we have our rapid response team that are actually deployed to Lagos and Ogun, because those are the places where the in this case actually touched. And these people have been working with the state government, Lagos state government, as well as Ogun state government. So I was in Lagos on Saturday with the Honorable Minister, and we were able to see the patient. The patient was actually doing fine and is still doing fine as I'm talking to you now. So there is no any other confirmed cases. We have actually tested for 15, and they were all negative.
Okay, follow up to yesterday's interministerial meeting. A lot of issues were raised regarding compliance,
Yes.
preventive measures. What is the compliance level now in terms of maybe at the airport, public institutions, in the private sector, ministries, government agencies, and what have you? Because we expect by now, just like when we had Ebola, everything was visible.
Yes.
What is the situation after the meeting of yesterday?
Yeah, it's just barely 24 hours now. Our team that's on the field, they still reported that they were having issues with some VIP. But during the meeting yesterday, we agreed that whoever that is not complying, we need to get his or her name. And the Honorable Minister of Aviation has actually taken it upon himself that we can send these names to him, that he will really take it up. Because if anybody that travels outside the country, they are always obeying the rules and regulations. So why not our own people here? So we are still talking to about this. We are still discussing it, and we are finalizing it so that anybody that does not comply, we have the right to send the names to Honorable Minister of Aviation and to take action on that.
By the last count, we have just 4 response centers, and there has been this call to increase it to 6, maybe 1 for each of the 6 geopolitical zones.
Response.
Are we up to date with that?
Yeah, we have 6 response centers now, and they are all ready for any eventuality. In fact, we train all the health workers that are manning these centers about a week before we now had the first case, and they have been dispersed to their different stations, and they are really working very hard to ensure that there's no to ensure that there's prevention, and if there's any eventuality, they will take care of it immediately.
As serious as this issue is, some persons seems to be try to kind of trivialize it, and the minister has said that steps will be taken on those who attempt to do in terms of mischief makers, those who spread fake news to scare people. Have we had cases of people being arrested or people being stopped to carry out such trends?
Actually, we have not arrested anybody, but since the Honorable Minister has just announced that, we have not had any problem with such again. Initially there were news, rumors. We were able to investigate and arrest it. But since the Honorable Minister just announced that, I think everything has now coming down. People are now very careful on what they discuss, because the Honorable Health even said that there is a collaboration between the Ministry of Information and Facebook. So if anybody send any fake information or news, the Facebook will just withdraw it immediately, which is a very good development.
Being the manager of the director of the Preparedness and Response Center of COVID-19, what word of education will you give to Nigerians preventive and proactive towards warding of this scourge?
Yes, containing this COVID-19 should be everybody's business, not just government, individuals, society, everybody. And the major thing is that you must practice hygiene. Make sure you wash your hand regularly, and you make sure that if somebody is coming beside you, you have to be at least 1 to 2 meters apart. And another thing is that if you have anybody coming from all these countries where we have community transmission of COVID, that person should have what we call self-isolation and report back to a particular number, which I'm going to call very soon.
You have it here?
Yes, I have it here. So the number you need to call immediately is 080 097 000 10 to 10. So when you call that,
repeat the number again for emphasis.
080 0970 0010 to 10. So you have to avoid self-medication, and you have to follow the advice of experts. So these are the things we expect anyone to do. When you are coming from those countries where there's community transmission, like China and those countries I've just mentioned, that person, whether he's actually having symptoms or not, must immediately, contact us. Should not go to any chemist or any pharmacy to say he wants to treat himself. Must contact us, and then we'll take action immediately.
What if it is discovered that somebody had the symptoms and tried to withhold without letting the public know?
Oh, that is the reason why we are screening at all the borders. Okay. We will be able to get hold of that person. We always get their phone number and their contact. And then we have contact tracers that call them every day, ask them how they're feeling, and ask them to take their body temperature. So if it's above normal, then we take action immediately. We have all our ambulances ready, our drivers, they are all been trained, our experts, they will go there and be able to take the patient down, take the sample or a specimen from that patient and go to the laboratory immediately.
Well, for emphasis, the numbers you just called are very, very important. And when these numbers are called, what are we supposed to be expecting? So can you call the numbers again for Nigerians to have it?
This is a connect center. They are operating 24/7. If you call the number now, somebody will pick.
Call the number again.
Okay.
Just take it easy.
Okay. 080 09 70 00010.
One more time.
080 09 70 00010. The call center is 24/7 since the beginning of this outbreak.
Okay. When you arrived, we had a handshake, right? Can we shake it?
You want me to shake it?
Yes. Now, there is this issue of handshake, and now you registered me. Can you explain properly? Because it appears people tried to misconstrue it about handshake. Please educate Nigerians properly. It's a major issue.
Actually, our hands, most of the time, we touch things, and those inanimate objects we are touching may be contaminated. So when that thing is contaminated and your hand touches it, automatically it will be the virus will be in your hand. And most people, they're always touching their eyes, touching their nose, unknowingly. And that's the reason why you don't need to shake because of this issue. Most of the time, you see people, raising their legs to just call. If you say the Honorable Minister and the Commissioner of Health in Lagos State, they actually did it when when they met on Saturday. And it is a sign that please don't just shake hands because you don't know whether that person, has any of the viruses or any of the germs in the hand. So, but you always practice washing of your hand every time. Anytime you want to eat, you make sure, and then you don't touch your face anyhow. Touching your face or touching your eyes and everything, you can, get infected through that.
The other one too is the issue of sneezing.
Yes. When you want to
It kind of
sneeze,
poses issues too.
yes, sneezing is another way of spreading the
Does it
any
mean
of
that
this virus.
every attempt to sneeze is coronavirus?
No, it's not. But just to be on the on the safe side, that if somebody is harboring or is being infected, not to infect other people. If you want to sneeze, you try to cover. If you have an handkerchief, it's okay, but tissue paper or salve paper will be very good, where you just sneeze into it and dispose it immediately. And you always cover your dustbin or wherever you drop it, so that this virus doesn't just move around anyhow. So it is very, very important we practice hygiene. Even for our respiratory system, it's very, very important. We don't just expose ourselves to that.
Besides the World Health Organization, the European Union ministers in charge of health are planning an extraordinary meeting very soon. What's your response to this? And also, besides what the Nigerian government has done, the inter-ministerial briefing yesterday, where so many decisions were taken, are we expecting an emergency meeting very soon across the health value chain in Nigeria?
Yes. Because we are
to
not
sustain the advocacy.
Yes, we are. Initially it was preparedness. Rabi was mentioning that on the 21st of January, but now we are now in the response phase. We meet every day at AOC to discuss matter relating to this, take decision, and immediately execute the decision. So the highest body, which actually met yesterday, they have loads of decision taking, and we have technical people that are going to carry it out. So immediately these are carried out, they will meet again to review what has been done, and then to know whether there's any challenges, whether they have a challenge on that, and then resolve the issue. They are the highest body, and that's the reason why we are saying that those that are not complying at port of entry, they knows how to deal with it. Our own is just to report to them.
I know very well that the media is key to this.
Yes.
We have the NTA, FRCN,
but they've been doing
National
fantastic job.
Agency. When are we going to have messages besides the English language? Like in Hausa?
We have all this in our office.
Okay.
We have the IEC materials for major languages in Nigeria.
Not distributed?
Well, what we did was we have it in a soft copy, and then we send it to all the states of the federation, so that they will look at it again and adapt it to their own local language. So as I speak to you now, we have sent all this, including the advisory, to all the states of the federation. The commissioners were involved, all the directors, all the people that are working in the Ministry of Health. So we have it, everywhere. So
you can be part of the conversation tonight on curtailing the first case of COVID-19 in Nigeria through our phone number displayed on the screen, also through our Twitter handle at TuesdayLive NTA. And the next question I want to ask you, Doctor, is what about schools, private and public schools, from the primary, secondary, tertiary level? Are the campaigns and the advocacy taking place side by side?
Yes. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control just issued advisory on that too, that the school that is the school principals, the headmistress, and so on, they should embark on, teaching their wards and their students on how to actually practice washing of hand, that is infection prevention and control, and that there is no need for them now to be using mask, because we were told sometimes that some schools were saying that they should buy and they bring it to school. So there is no need of that particular now. The only people that you are expected to be doing that are the people that are actually showing the symptoms, and they just have to prevent other people to be infected. So, but the major thing is they should practice hand hygiene, and then ensure that all the environment are clean, and they always move away from anyone that is coughing or sneezing at any particular point in time, at least about 1 to 2 meters away.
Okay, the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, at about a few minutes to 8 this evening, confirmed to Nigerians that the Chinese national, a few days ago, tested negative.
Yes.
What about the latest one in Abuja here?
Okay.
Can you give us an update?
Yes, the latest was in Abuja this afternoon. We took the blood sample. We took the oropharyngeal sample swab of the patient, and then it has been sent to our lab in Gadua. So in the next few hours now, it will be ready, and the Honorable Minister will announce of it. But as I speak to you now, we only have one confirmed positive, and all the one we have been testing, they are all negative.
Okay, but so far
only
now,
one
no
confirmed.
Nigerian has.
No.
Okay. What about those officials or workers who had links with the Italian? Have we tracked some? Are we in touch with them?
Okay.
There are assurances given that all those who have had contacts with him, the hotel.
Yes.
Have you reached them?
Yeah, we have reached them. We are getting in touch with them, and we are monitoring them every day. We have our expert that call them twice in a day. We call them in the morning, call them in the evening to know whether they are complying, and all of them are actually complying. So we have all of them. We are getting in touch with all of them.
So what word of advice will you give to Nigerians generally? What word of fear, mischief, fake news?
Yes.
Because it's trending everywhere.
I know.
People are capitalizing on the development to say all sorts,
yes,
post all sorts, share all sorts.
Yeah, we are actually battling with fake news and misinformation, which is causing a sort of strain on our time and resources. But I will urge Nigerians not to panic, because that one will cause a lot of issues again. So they shouldn't panic. The Federal Ministry of Health and the NCDC are on top of this situation. We are on top of our game. We are actually containing it. The incubation period for this particular virus is between 2 to 14 days, and the average ranges between 5 to 6 days. So most deaths occur among the elderly and those people that have comorbidity. So they should not panic at all. All what they need to do is just to practice hand hygiene, and they will be fine.
Okay. Dr. John Oladejo,
yes,
it was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight, and I believe we appreciate your up-to-date information you're giving us on the latest information on COVID-19 in Nigeria.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll take the second leg of the program tonight, which is sustaining the conversation on increase in electricity tariff in Nigeria. Don't go away.
Thank you.
All persons arriving from China or any country that has a major outbreak is advised, if they have no symptoms at all, to self-isolate, meaning that they stay indoors in their homes for at least 2 weeks. And if they develop any symptoms like cough, catarrh, sneezing, breathing difficulties within this period, to report to the nearest health facility. We're also advising all airlines to report any case of a passenger falling sick on board before the plane lands. That is a requirement in the agreement. Nigeria Port Health Services and Nigeria Center for Disease Control are on alert at our airports and other points of entry.
From more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned on the program. And our second leg, we shall be looking at sustaining the conversation on increase in electricity tariff. A new electricity tariff approved by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) is expected to take effect from April the 30th this year, for which the 11 electricity distribution companies DISCOs are to key in. There are, though, speculations that the envisaged increase is more than 50% and has raised questions that include: where are the prepaid meters that consumers are supposed to use to regulate their consumption, and outrageous estimated billings and believed to be empowering the DISCOs at the mercies of the consumers? On the other hand, are arguments supporting the increment that will, among other things, help in stabilizing electricity supply and resolve the problems of country's power sector. Other areas of concerns are on huge expenditure of government in capacity improvement across the value chain in the sector already privatized. The development that has given rise for calls for the electricity sector to be patterned like the telecommunications, where subscribers are investing greatly in the sector, but how much of education is done on the importance of funding. How well has the discourse kept with their words of providing meters for the populace? Is the April deadline set by NEC feasible? Answers and more after this background report put together by Hamza McCarthy.
Over the years since privatization of the power sector in 2013, the customer has never been king and continued to be unhappy with performance by operators, despite commitments to service agreements and government huge investment on infrastructure in the sector. Most Nigerians contend with outrageous estimated billing system and lack of meter access. According to 2019 data from the National Bureau of Statistics, only about 3.4 million residential households connected by distribution companies are metered out of an estimated 7.5 million. The distribution companies, on the other hand, are not any better and concerned about energy theft amounting to billions of naira, unwillingness by customers to pay accumulated bills, corruption by personnel in their system, and other huge legacy issues inherited from the days of NEPA and PSCN.
Distribution companies are the ones that will collect all the payment that will fund the value chain, from the gas suppliers up to the distributing company. So once the tariff is not set right, then you cannot have the correct pricing. And what that means is that you are selling below your cost. And there is no way that you can sell below your cost and you can also be in business.
Other participants, like the GENCOS and TCN, equally share concerns of stranded power and inability of discourse to take a load, leading to huge revenue losses by the entire sector. Although the discourse continue to deny, gas suppliers too feel the impact for not getting paid as at when due. Generally, the value chain has a disconnect, and participants blame huge dearth of funding in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, resulting in slow-paced development of the power sector.
There is blame game between the owners, the distribution companies, the generation companies, the transmission companies.
Changes coming to the power sector cannot happen without adequate funding and management.
It was to address the challenges federal government introduced power sector recovery plan to attain service and financial stability. Similarly, government injected more than 700 billion naira between 2015 and 2019 to address shortfall in revenue, aware robust electricity supply is guarantee for economic growth and stability of the nation. Recently, the ad hoc committee on power sector under Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State says 1.7 trillion naira was spent by the federal government in 3 years to fund the sector. As part of ongoing national conversation in fixing the power sector, stakeholders are demanding the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to be more effective in carrying out its mandate.
Sustain the conversation on increase in electricity tariff in Nigeria. That report put together by Hamza McCarthy sets the tone for the second leg of the program tonight. And you can be part of the conversation when our phone lines are displayed on the screen. Put in your calls, raise your concerns, and they will be addressed. Also, you can be part of it through our Twitter handle at TuesdayLive NTA. Also ask your questions, and when our calls are through to you, please turn down the volume of your television set to avoid a callback. My guests I have in Abuja, we shall also be going to Ibadan Network Center of the NTA. My guest, I have Dr. Sam Amadi. Dr. Sam Amadi is former Executive Chairman, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, and currently Head of Department, Property and Private Law, Based University, President, Association of Law, Students and Economic Studies. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Law and Economic Studies.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Peter Eweso is the MD, CEO, Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Prince Will Okorie. Prince Will Okorie is National President Association for Public Policy Analysis and a Power Sector Analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
From Ibadan, we have John Ayodele, Chief Operating Officer, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company. He's joining us from Ibadan Network Center. Good to have you on the program.
Very much.
Okay, I believe he heard us. We'll join him as the conversation continues. Gentlemen, once again, welcome to the program. Sustaining conversation increase in electricity tariff in Nigeria. If you follow the conversation, you hear all kinds of arguments, lingo, technicalities. Before we go into it, let me start with Dr. Amani. We hear so much about a word called MITO. MITO here means multi-year tariff order, and it comes year by year. So what's MITO, and where is MITO 2019 or MITO 2020?
Thank you very much. I think maybe consumers are less concerned about MITO, are more concerned about power, but
no,
you're right.
Absolutely. We need to know what's MITO.
Well, like you said, it's a multi-year tariff order, and the idea is that electricity pricing is multi-year. Investment in the network depreciates over the years. So, for example, so if you put meter or transformer in this area, maybe it has a 20 years or 50 years or 10 years, So the regulated asset base means that all those costs are put together, and then we develop, or NEC develops, a price methodology that allows for different prices over the years. Oftentimes, those prices might not change much because the costs don't change a lot. So what that might simply means that you have a framework that lays out the price of electricity generation price, of course, retail over, let's say, we started with 5 years, and then we had about 10 years. I don't know what.
Do you graduate yearly?
Yes, what happens is that those prices are published ahead of time to know the price, but those prices are also subject to what we call minor review, which means because some escalators, take for example, our exchange rate has not been, it has been fairly stable now, but in the past it has gone up to something 365 or so, or 306 $. So that's one indicator that can change a variable. The second variable is also inflation. The third variable is quantity of power available, and the fourth, cost of gas. Now, what that means is that because the regulator knows that these are variables, that means they change over time. There is plus minus 5%. So it used to be every 6 months. Okay, you would come back and rebase, meaning you go and look at those indicators. If you do your assessment, reindex those prices again. If nothing changes, the price you publish remains. But if there is massive, more than 5% plus minus, then it means that, technically speaking, that price published ahead of time might no longer be sustainable.
I'm taking off from this perspective because what we are
again, just finally,
affects all Nigerians across the sector. It's just like GSM.
Absolutely.
Electricity affects everybody, and everybody from the various strata shop from the same that AEDC and what have you, and they are treated. That is a concern. That's why I asked the question.
Yes, again, just to sum up, the idea of MITO is, for example, assuming power increases, quantity increases, it's possible that the price you pay this year, next year the price goes down because quantity, all things being equal, if it increases, the average or marginal cost of production will be low. So the MITO graduates based on the quantity is a critical driver. The cost of gas, which is a major component, we have about 80% of our power comes from gas turbine, or the quantity or the cost of the foreign exchange and others will affect. So the MITO provides orderly pricing mechanism, so people know ahead of time what price, and those prices allow the operators to recover their cost, and therefore those prices create incentive for investors to see like a 5-year window that, look, these prices are controlled based on sensible variables that any businessman will look at. So the MITO is actually gives confidence both to consumers and to operators. But the idea here is to make sure that the prices are such that reflect as much as possible the true cost of production.
Okay, the other leg, before I get to Engineer Weso, is how do you categorize or what's the placement of R1, R2, C1?
Well,
these are technical things that have been happening in the sector.
No, it's very important. You know,
R1, R2, C1.
Yeah.
I'm aware that R1, R2 has to do with residential. C1 has to do with single-phase, three-phase commercial consumers.
Okay, the point.
How do you place them currently?
Exactly. The point is that there are different categories and classes of consumers based on their load they take from the networks, and of course based on the type of business they do. So the discos have their classification. Of course, NEC has classification are residential customers, commercial customers, industrial customers, and of course things like agriculture and public institutions and street lights. So those categories are there. Now the R1 customers are, technically speaking, people who take not more than 50 kilowatt per month, let's say. Okay, so their consumption is rudimentary, and they are hugely subsidized because they're not taking much. Then R2, you have R2 those who are also single phase and three-phase meter. You have R3 depending also on some residential, for example, some people who are on dedicated transformer, low tension, high tension, dedicated to transformer. They have, so those prices are based on, ideally, on an assessment by the DISCO of your load. So if you're living, for example, most residential customers are R2 customers. So they're going to be either single phase or three-phase meters. And the phase actually reflects maybe to an extent how much stability you have in power. So you can change if you have more phases. So most of us are R2. Now, many of the big households with maybe mansions, people like living in Hilltop, could be in R2. Now, the C customers are commercial customers that also phase C1 would be maybe, take for example, the pure water manufacturer, the hairdresser, the C2. So based on the load that you take, and so the problem has always been that sometimes customers are misclassified, and then they come and complain to the regulator or to the DISCO to properly classify them. But all these are based on accurate energy audit that tells us what load they are taking and what devices you have in your house and what kind of power you are taking for the grid. So if you have just your fridge, for example, I think technically R1 will be, let's say, a few bulbs in a hut somewhere, maybe with a fan.
Yeah, I love your explanation. Let me go to Engineer Weso. Engineer Weso, you are the chief technical. I can't pick your designation, but you're already on. Yeah, chief. Let me emphasize. MD Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation. As critical as this discussion is, I want to ask you this. Enumerated consumers, as at 2012, we are told is 5 million. But as at 2019, it is 10 million. Metered 4.8, non-metered 5.2. How did you arrive at this? And where are we with it, middle course? How did you arrive at this?
Well, I think these are data that actually are gotten from the regulator, because at the time the regulator actually did their first assignment when the privatization was to kick in, they then needed to know what is the customer size. And at that time they find the customer size was 5 million. And at that same time too, not all the 5 million consumers were actually metered. But as you try to close the gap, the metering gap, you find that the number of customers that are coming into are increasing at a rate too that actually you find you are not really getting close to closing the gap. And that was why last year it behoved on the regulator to say, look, if the DISCOs are not able to actually close the gap as fast as possible, because until you have proper metering, adequate metering, the liquidity in the market that will actually drive the entire market will not be there. So that was when they actually came up with the MAP regulation to say that, look, we can no longer leave this in the hands of the DISCO. Let's have a third party who should bring his own investment and then be able to recover that his investment as a first line charge of the meter they provided. But as at 2019, they find out that the total metering gap is actually 5.2, which shows it's even actually higher than the 5 million we had in 2012. And so with the meter asset provider coming in now, it is expected that closing the gap will be faster. And in closing the gap is equally going to help the sector, because if every person that is actually connected consuming power is metered, then you are sure of collection efficiency. Then the investor will to actually recover the money, because the discos who are the tail end are actually the one who provide the money to run the market. They pay the transport, the wheeling capacity, they pay for gas, they pay for the manpower capacity within the sector. In fact, they pay for everything. And so presently now, what is standing is that we have 5.2 million metering gap. And so on that map, the discos have given us their projections, which shows that gradually from 2019 up to 2022, this 5 million will be closed up, and actually anticipating too that definitely at that time too, a lot of new customers will have come in. So a total number of metering statistics as at 2022 will be about 6.3 million meters, which as we are closing, you expect new ones to come, and then to take care of those additions that will come, that's why you actually have is over the 5.2 million that we have. So at where we are today is that the metering gap is being closed. The meter set providers have come in. Unfortunately, there is a challenge. The challenge is that as at the time the regulator was fixing the price, that's like the former chairman said, there are a lot of indices that are used to determine what is the actual cost of energy. It's the same thing with the meters. As at the time this cost was being put in place, that's the import tariff, that is the charge by custom, was about 10-15%. But as at the time the map now kicking that the meter set provider were now supposed to bring in the meters, unfortunately the custom tariff has gone up, and so this one too has its own shock, has its own challenge on this on the provision of meters.
Okay, I'll come back to you on other legs of the issue. Now, Prince Will, you are more or less here speaking for the consumers. Dr. Amadi has been there and is still a stakeholder. Westo is there. Before I go to Ibadan, can you give us an overview of the situation, as much as you don't have all the time?
Thank you very much. From what Dr. Amadi has said and what Oga here has said, it is clear that the privatization of the power sector ab initio was faulty. It was not done on sincere grounds. How can you say 5 million metering, or 5 point something metering gap, or predicating meter on 5 million in a country with almost 180 million citizens? Are you saying that the buildings in Nigeria, one local government, how many buildings are there? Talk less of one state. And you are bringing 5 million. So it's deceptive. Because if we have not less than 36 million households in Nigeria, and 36 million households, okay, if it was 5 million, why was it that at inception in 2013, the performance agreement that the discos signed on to, they were to provide about 64 million meters, I think. They were supposed to provide that. So why did 5 million come in? That, having said that, Dr. Amadi has talked about MITO. The MITO regulation provides that it has to be set according to available capacity. As we speak today, available capacity is 7,000 megawatts, but the discos are transmitting 3,000 megawatts. You can confirm this from the generation companies. Now, if the discos are raising tariff, the NEC is raising tariff, and they are basing the increase in tariff on utilized capacity, that is 3,000. It's shortchanging the consumers. So if you look at the governance system of the sector, there's no seriousness there. For instance, BPE is representing federal government. And we are told that state, federal and local governments own 40% in the privatize their companies. The question is, how are the states participating? How are the local governments participating? Then again, the question is, how was consumer enumeration done to arrive at 5 million consumers or households? If there was genuine enumeration, like I come from the southeast, the 5 states, they have 97 local government areas. In these 97 local government areas, no state there is less than 3 million persons. And these 3 million persons, no state there will have less than 2 million households. Now, if 2 million times 5 is 10 million in one geopolitical zone, the least geopolitical zone, then think about the north, think about the southwest, think about the south-south. So the governance system ab initio was not properly harnessed. Again, the consumers were not put into the picture properly. You could see what happens in the sector. Immediately NEC came on board. The distribution companies formed ANIDs, Association of Electricity Distributors. And the ANIDs are playing advocacy role in defense of the discos. But there is no consumer group. The government has not even found it worthy to say, look, because of social service, because of the relevance of the sector to social and economic development, government shouldn't see consumer protection issues in the sector as if we fund consumers is not proper, let them fund themselves. But you will look at the crisis in the sector now and look at the way the whole thing is going. If the consumers were organized and supported to play their role, they will raise issues. You can't just raise MITO. Look at, for instance, last week, NEC did consultation in the North Central at Merit House. How many persons were there? The North Central has Kogi. I think Kogi, Abuja is included. I think whether Niger or how many states are in North Central. But all you could see in Merit House, not up to 100 persons were there. And you're doing consultation. Now you have local government councils, 774 local government councils in this country. How many local governments were represented in these consultations? Then you just bring a few persons at the center of the city and tell them it's consultation. But again, are the consumers educated? Like what Dr. Sam Amadi has explained here. How many consumers understand what MITO is? How many understands this R1, R2? Like if you ask Dr. Weso now, how have they related with consumers? Even INEC relates with civil society groups. The question we keep asking is, why is it that agencies under the power sector avoid civil society groups?
At this point, let's go to Ibadan. Ibadan now, we have a disco there, standing in for the discos, where John Ayodele, Chief Operating Officer, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, is joining us tonight. You heard from Dr. Sam Amadi, Engineer Weso, and Prince Will. What's the situation? Can you give us an update?
Thank you very much. The key issue with tariff setting and others is a basic function embedded in the regulatory function of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. But let me start with, as at the time the assets were sold in 2013, there was no enumeration done. We depended purely on the factors that were in the data room. And at that time, we all realized that the union and government were at loggerhead. So there was no due diligence done in the sector. So that warranted that as soon as the new owners took over, the first thing they embarked on was customer and asset enumeration. So some of the figures you are hearing today is coming out from the customer enumeration that was done. In Ibadan, we did our customer, we have not even finished, but we are almost like 98% on the end of the customer enumeration. We did it with the latest technology. So the question of saying whether there are 200,000 houses or 500 or 10 million houses does not come. Every land area where we occupy has been mapped on a Google map, and we have translated it to reality such that every meter we install today has a GPS position. So even if your name should change, the GPS will not change. And we are using that to map out. It's just using technology for the whole situation. So in the real sense, the tariff setting is the MITO you have heard from Dr. Sam Amadi, which is the true position. He was at the head of affairs of NEC for a while. So he understands what he's saying. But what I want the whole Nigerians to understand is the fact that yes, we have like 11 classes of tariff positions. R1 customers today still pay 4 naira per unit for people who are taking about 50 kilowatt hour per month. 4 naira. Today, there is no power. The power that we buy from the grid is almost at 22 naira, 23 naira, depending on the situation. So you can see that if I buy electricity at 22 naira per unit, and I sell to anybody at 4 naira, you can see the big loss that is there. R2 customers is not better. For all R2 customers, which is like ordinary residential people, it could be single phase, it could be 3-phase, I'm still losing about 3 naira. So the tariff is such that those who are on the high end industrial, like D2 and D3 customers, they pay like 47 naira. It is from this one that we try to offset the losses that we make on R2 and R1 customers. But what is our industrial base? How many industrial customers do we have? So when you look at it, it's not equal to. And that is why, as of today, there is still tariff shortfall. Tariff shortfall comes from the fact that the cost of doing business is, say for example, 100 naira. But you can only invoice, say, 70 naira. So the difference of 30 naira is what constitutes what they call tariff shortfall. So if anybody is talking today that government is investing in this business, it is because government did not allow tariff to get to cost-reflective tariff, and therefore government had to subsidize the cost of doing business. Most of us realize that the people who are there are businessmen. They are not Father Christmas and they are not anything, so they are there to make money. But as of today, there is no disco that is making money. It's all losses. If you go into the books of every disco, most discos are owing between 100 billion and 200 billion into the sector. That makes their books unviable. You can't take that one to any bank to secure money. So that creates the funding problem that they have. Any disco that is not interested in metering is definitely not in business, because that is the only way you measure the consumption. The estimated billing to many, unfortunately, does not even pay discos. I'm telling you that no disco who depends on estimated billing will ever make it, because the tendency is that a lot of people are underestimated. While some may be overestimated, of course, those are the ones crying out. But a lot of people today, if you want to put meter in their houses, they will refuse it because they prefer the estimated billing. So the question we have on ground is that now there is MAP, meter asset provider. But like Engineer Wezo said, as soon as that one was created, a price was fixed, there was a change in tariff. And it's just what is going on in many places. The tariff has gone up, and therefore the people who want to do MAP have problem of clearing their goods. Before the MAP, it was 10% tariff, but now today as we speak, it's 45%. And there's no way to put that one into the whole situation almost immediately. And that is affecting the MAP program.
In Ibadan. But let's take our first caller tonight. Our first caller is calling from Lagos, Yusuf. Hello, Yusuf. Hello, Yusuf.
Hello.
Hello, Yusuf. You're on to Tuesday Live.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm calling from Lagos.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I would like to say on this. Hello. Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay. I would say about the electricity tariff. About the electricity tariff. It is kind of like contractual legosla, and a kind of a mwahaha on these monotonous voyages.
Well, Yusuf, we'll come back to you. Your lingo is getting to around the high side. We are discussing tariff, not mwahaha here. Thank you so much. Well, we have a couple of reports, and for your information, you can be part of the conversation. Put in your phone calls through the number displayed on the screen, and also through our Twitter handle at TuesdayLive NTA. Before then, let's take a couple of reports. The very first report is coming in from Port Harcourt.
Access to energy has continued to be a recurring issue in most parts of the country. About 40% of the population does not have access to electricity, as the electrification rate in Nigeria stands at 55% in urban and 36% in rural areas. As the country grapples to generate, transmit and distribute electricity, the review on electricity tariff has become necessary to improve service delivery of distribution companies.
We'll be talking about customer satisfaction, reduction in the estimated billing system, network expansion, stroke, rehabilitation. If you look at some of the network, which was inherited from the Hitato PSN, some of them are aging. Of course, it requires money to rehabilitate those lines. And the money can only come through the fifth man in the value chain, which is the customer.
Other respondents are of the view that the review on the tariff require inputs from different stakeholders. This will ensure that customers are not subjected to high electricity rates, which in turn gives rise to non-payment of bills, meter bypassing, and other challenges that hinders efficient operations of service providers.
Considering that Nigerians are paying so much taxes, and this period the economy is not really stable, to ensure that proper modalities are set, stakeholders should be involved, stakeholders should be engaged.
Bill, no light, they will use hand and write it. Is it good? It's not good. Look at me, how many rooms? Only 2 rooms. They are writing 10,000.
They, however, appealed for the availability of prepaid meters to put an end to the estimated billing system.
Our next leg is Kano.
It's not an exception, as its economy also depends largely on energy, which provides a platform for the establishment of small, medium and large-scale industries. Investigations, however, reveals that even with the privatization of the country's power sector and the introduction of the prepaid meter by the distribution companies, which is meant to bring some form of relief, people are still groaning under outrageous billing and incessant outage. 42-year-old Abdulaziz is among the many Kano residents who depend on power as a source of livelihood and is already apprehensive of the planned increase in electricity tariff.
I'll not be really happy because most of us will even decide to allow them to disconnect our lights so that we'll be using our generator really, because it's even more safer for us, because it's not helpful at all really. Even if they bring a light, they are low current.
While management of Kano Electricity Distribution Company on its part attributed non-payment of electricity bills by consumers as one of the many factors inhibiting effective service delivery.
We want customers to look at and everybody to understand that the liquidity, the money, the tariff is the only way you get money to the entire value chain. If there's more money within the sector, there will be more improvement in upgrading of network, the issue of metering, and the power will become more reliable.
Increase in inputs of production will definitely affect the prices of goods and services.
People of vested interests are, however, advocating for the harmonization of electricity charges across the country rather than increasing the tariff.
That report from Kano links us to this caller from Kano, Mutari. Hello, Mutari. Hello, Mutari.
Hello, sir.
Good evening. You're on to Tuesday Live.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
This is a great opportunity which I have been ever waiting to hear from. And in fact, issue relevant to these electricity matters. In fact, what the last speaker have just said, what the last speaker have just said is beyond satisfiable. Why am I saying it? He is not speaking to the thought of the common Nigerians, because this electricity problems has become, has become a great problem. In the market index, when business is being sustainable and is being what is to say buoyant, it is when you will not like to bring an increase into the market dex. But in a situation of light matters, which is confronting Nigeria entirely, you could believe me that the commoners that are using this electricity are not even enjoying the light which it is being so-called being privatized for over some decades. Today, even myself, what I experienced, I have even paid a bill without even having meter. I have been a tenant for quite 17 good years where I'm living. I seek for meter before the privatization of this electricity board. And why the last speaker is telling the audience that people are running away to get a meter, I know the importance of meter use. The bill which I've paid right today when the NEPA authority came to my house, because of the money they are generating, no board was even trying to access that money which they are even generating. Then they keep on making a balancing excuse on Nigerians. What am I trying to say? The board itself, there are corrupt practices within their systems. This is something they're supposed to look upon. And also, what the first speaker have just said, Dr. Amadi, telling the Nigerians that they are trying to provide 5.2 million meters to Nigeria. How many are we in the society? Over 180 million Nigerians, and you are telling Nigerians that it's only 5 million meters you are providing. How can this solution can be done? In fact, I've never seen a worst sector like Nigeria electricity generation, which today they are more corruptible than even the Nigeria police force. Please, in fact, if really they want justice to be done in that sector, they need to call on board both the common man in the street, so that it will also be a committee, so that they're able to hear individuals' opinion, how to move this sector forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Muktari. Quite emotional there. Well, fundamentally, the man from Ibadan raised serious issue. I know that the issue of increase in electricity tariff, the consultation is on. So it is neither here nor there for now. It has not been put on hold consultation. So let us look at metering. Metering is fundamental. Ayodele in Ibadan said any disco that is not interested in metering is not supposed to be in business. What is the big deal about this metering? Why is it a problem? You have been given the opportunity to distribute power, and the easiest and seamless way to make your money is when the consumer has meter. Meaning, you buy, let me just say, I have my phone, I have my SIM card, I buy my airtime. I don't need to wait for someone to give me estimated. So what's the big deal about not providing meters?
Well, I think, in fact, I would like everybody to have meter every day, even though I'm no longer in NEC. I receive calls from everybody who need meter. They are estimated billing. So I want meter. But the point is, you see, we sit back and ask ourselves this question. Meter is one of those legacy, what we call legacy problems in the sector. What that means are problems that are inherited. Nigeria started the first grid electricity in 1896, I think, at Ijora. Till 2012, when we had our first meter inquiry led by Bamidele Turu, which when I was chairman of NEC, that report gave us that metering rate was probably about 40% of consumers were metered. So we had at least 60% unmetered. Today, I think maybe the improvement could be maybe something close to 45 or 50 marks. I'm not sure. So what does that tell you? It means that even before you privatize, you had 60% of your customers unmetered. Now, what does that mean? It means two things, basically. It means financing. It means that somebody has to buy the meters and install them. So like Ewesu said, meter has a cost component, okay? Now, two problems. The man in Ibadan, Ayodele, experienced NEPA staff who is now, who went very high up, so he knows what we're talking about. Every disco ought to care about metering because the way it can protect your revenue is that you meter your customer, so you can predict what your revenue is. Unfortunately, with huge unmetered customers, they resort to estimation, which technically rips off the consumer, but also can also affect discos in terms of loss of revenue. Because truly, there could be consumers, a few of them who may not be properly estimated. And that's why NEC in their new capping says, if you're already consuming billed below the cap, you continue on that below. If you are more than the cap, you pay the cap. Okay, now look at the issue. The problem in the sector is that when we privatize, before privatization we had a problem of metering, but when we privatize, those who bought the asset gave a projection when they will meter their customers. That projection is not even full metering. But the point is that they needed financing. And part of that financing is that it's a double whammy. You have to recover that financing from tariff. Losses are high. Power, for example, by the time we left, we were already projecting maybe about 7,000, 6,000 megawatts by now, which means supply to homes. Not technically, we have 7,000.
Sorry, if you don't mind, let me just take this caller from Sapele. Daniel is calling in from Sapele. Hello, Daniel. Oh, we lost that call, please, sorry.
So, we had probably about 7,000 megawatts. Now, so more market, more power, more revenue. And then the discos can make the investment. Now, those who bought this asset with borrowed money. Like what we said, yes, he was right. They were not, we privatized at the time, we need to privatize by all means. And then the people who bought it, not everybody in the world cared about our asset, because we didn't have the capacity. These are rundown assets. We didn't have, just like people are complaining about tariff increase, they didn't have confidence that we can increase tariff. They didn't have confidence that we can allow these discos to operate. So they shied away. And Nigerian businessmen got money from the banks, leveraged 100%, some of them, to borrow money to buy the asset. Now, they don't have capacity to borrow money to finance long investment that have gaps. So if you invest today in power sector, you get like in the next 10, maybe 20 years, you keep getting small. So the first problem of metering is financing. Where is the money coming? The discos are suffering from loss of revenue. Today, the discos who carry the discos who recover the money, MBET will probably pay the generators. But the discos take a head cut. That means they will take less. Maybe they will pay regulator and other people. So at the end of the day, the problem is that the revenue doesn't balance. The disco doesn't have enough revenue to invest in metering. The second problem is also that sometimes, even when they can do more in metering, the incentive of estimated captive, this is a monopoly. That's why private monopoly is dangerous. So the customers are captive. That means even if you don't have good service, where are you going to? You're in Abuja, are you going to go to another disco? And that's the danger of privatizing with a private monopoly. When you privatize and you don't have efficiency gain, it's more dangerous than a public monopoly. Because the private monopoly, you have no exit, no choice. But you are trapped. So today, consumers are suffering because the discos do not have the capacity to meter them regularly and don't also have the incentive to make those investments because they are also very cautious. We're talking about taking the asset from them with all kinds of uncertainty. So they're not even investing as they ought to invest. So the problem, therefore, is how can we crack the crisis of financing? My proposition is this, that maybe government should consider metering as a social investment and say, okay, what's the metering gap? We finance metering without financing the disco. Because government has financed about 1.7 or 1.6 trillion in the 3 batches of the loan, the interventions. When I was there, we had 213 billion investment loan, so to say, secured by the CBN, of course. And the discos are paying those loans anyway. But what that means is that they needed to pay stranded costs, legacy costs. The government came with 700 something million, I guess, and then there are still billions, and they're still going on. So the point I'm making is this, that it might be important to see metering as a public good now, so that it take it away from the disco's responsibility. You then reduce the cost, the monetary component of the metering is taken away, so that discos will not be taking responsibility to, because once consumers are metered, like you say, they can control their consumption.
Okay.
I think that crisis is very important, because otherwise, I don't think in the next 2, 3, 4 years, the revenue flow in this market and the financing capacity of the discos to borrow money is enough to finance, even if it's only 5 million. Let's assume so. Don't forget that every day, new houses, new customers are coming on the network.
Let's take this call.
And
Let's
new
call
meters
from
are coming.
Sapele. Friday is calling in from Sapele. Hello, Friday. Hello, Friday.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm speaking from Sapele Delta State.
Go ahead.
We are speaking about electricity. In Sapele Delta State, NEPAs are collecting, power holding companies are collecting money at the end of the month, and there is no light. We are not using light in Delta State. They only bring the light for 3 hours, and they will collect and they will interrupt the power supply. I want to ask, this light bill that they are paying, where is the money going to be? Because the people are crying every day. There is no light. So people continue to pay light bill in Sapele Delta State, and there is no light. Why is it like that?
Thank you, Friday. Njeweso, before I take the tweets, I want you to also respond on a different leg from the analysis given by Dr. Sam Amadi. What is the situation regarding those who have been supplied meters, those who are ready to get meters, the issue of meters being withdrawn? Were the meters not subjected to technical tests before being issued?
When you say withdrawn, is it the one they are decommissioning?
The one they are decommissioning, yes.
I think maybe let me come through another angle.
Raises a lot of concerns.
Yeah, because like he said, actually, before now myself, I didn't know how enormous the cost of metering was until recently, when this tariff came in. When meter has actually been assessed, you say it's 37,000, the other one is 76. I will now find out that with this tariff increase, that means the one that is 37 really will be going to almost about 57,000. So you can see. But I think one good thing that the regulator has done, realizing that the DISCO were not solvent enough to be able to actually provide this meter because they were not providing, brought in the MAP regulation, which was a way to say, okay,
MAP means meter
asset provider regulation. So what this means is that since the DISCOs are unable to provide meters, let's give it to a third party who will now provide this meter, though it's still part of the MITO because the meter cost needs to be recovered. But this one, somebody else is taking that responsibility so that DISCO can concentrate on other aspects of their job. But still, we need to know that the DISCO are still the one paying for the meter at the long run, because this money actually is paid to the meter asset provider directly. But one of the challenges that we're having with metering, apart from the financial, is installation. You remember the last time we discussed, you know that you find out that even many Nigerians will be telling you that their meters are running, because this meter being provided is not just for the consumers alone, it's both the DISCO. There are a lot of meters that can come into the system that actually you'll be consuming, and the utility company are not even seeing what you are consuming, because that's why it's a device that is a two-way protector. It protects both the supplier and the consumer, and that's why the testing of this meter is of paramount importance, so that you don't have a situation whereby you are consuming, you are not paying, or you are paying for what you have not consumed. So that's the challenge. I give you an example. Somebody has installed a meter in his house. He has installed it at the load end. The load end means where the power now gets to your house, you use it to drive all the facilities. Sometimes you are using your generator. When you're using your generator and you switch it on, and your meter is at the load end, what you are generating, you are equally paying for it. And so that's why sometimes they say...
who does the installation?
Is the electrician, the electrical contractors. They do the installation. That's why you need to call an expert who has been certified by NEMSA, so that if there are challenges, we're able to look at it. In fact, the last one we did, we got a lot of callers who told us that they're going to check their installation and find out that actually they install it at the wrong place. Because you need to install your meter at the end where the supply is coming in, so that when you change over to your generator, it's going to the low without passing. That's one. Two, a lot of installations of meters in this country are awful. You use the wrong cable size, you use the wrong connection. Once you have connection, the losses we are talking about in the sector increases. When you twist wires together and the current is jumping gap, the losses will increase. And this one too can cause a lot of meters are getting burnt. And that's why I have actually been advising most of the discos to say, when we are closing the gap, we should actually take adequate precaution to ensure that we are perfectly closing the gap. Because if you are closing gap and we are losing meters, then you find out that when you do plus or minus, we are not really closing the gap. Like you talked today, now you talked about decommissioning. That's another issue which the regulator needs to look into. When MAP regulation was carved out, it was presumption is going to close the existing gap. But today, when any disco is decommissioning meters, and we are taking from the MAP for the decommission meter, we are no longer closing gap. I get my point, because already those meters we are decommissioning are actually being taken as part of the metered ones.
Let me just hold you there, sir. We'll take a report from Lagos and Vox Pop, but quickly, let me just read out this tweet sent in by Nigerians. Abdulkadir Audu, I believe Ayodele from your is listening, and the Prince will take note too, and all of us, because there are a few you may need to react to here. I so agree with the CEO of Ibadan Disco. Most customers living in the city centers are underestimated. They most times avoid to be metered. That's an agreement, Prince Will. Ahmad says, sir, there is a lot of corruption among the officers, more especially those that distributing bills to our homes. They don't want you to put that meter because they are getting because of what they are getting. But if you apply for meter, the money goes to government, so they don't want it. So I hope you get me. That's a tweet. Abdulkadir Audu, thank you, CEO, but note that unmetered customers in suburbs are overestimated. Al Farouk Ahmad, so let government put eyes on them, because the problem is not ours about the meter. Thank you. May God bless you all. Kafa Adewale, good evening, host, and regards to guests. My question is, with the huge amount of government invested into electricity, and Nigerians are not getting it free, and the discos still exist in business, complaining not making profit, who is deceiving who? God bless Nigeria. Last on this series, I'll said Oga Princeville, that was an excellent summary. The idea from the onset was completely faulty. Those are the tweets for now. We'll take more, but let's quickly go to Lagos. After Lagos report, we'll take Vox Pop from Nigerians, then we'll take Princeville and go to Ibadan and go run again. Report from Lagos.
The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, in its December 2019 minor review of multi-year tariff order 2015, announced that there will be electricity tariff increase come April 2020. Reasons for the increase, the Commission says, is to bridge the revenue shortfalls in the sector.
The issue of repairs, people even contributing money to buy their pole is a shame, and we regret it. But those things continue because the product is not being sold at the appropriate price.
The step has, however, remained condemned by virtually every electricity consumer across board.
We only base on generator for 24 hours.
They don't have to drive people around, cut their life before they get their money. But since you have decided not to give people prepaid meter, they keep on tapping your lights, you keep on carrying ladder up and down.
Respondents further explained that with the already biting economic situation in the country, increasing electricity tariff will adversely affect the outputs of both small and medium-scale businesses in Lagos, a city best described as Africa's commercial hub.
Now that they have not increased the light, it's affecting businesses.
Not to talk of they come to increase it.
I also pay tax for the electricity one way or the other through VAT and other things.
When I go to my barber shop, from 500 he has already increased everything to about 1,000 or so.
In spite of meetings between electricity distribution companies and key players, the step has continued to meet with serious opposition.
Any increase in tariff without concomitant commitment to metering is potentially problematic and would again exploit consumers as it is.
Whatever that Eco Electricity Distribution Company has made today, we'll go back to Abuja, sit down, and these contributions will be some of the things we will look into before arriving at our decision on the application.
While the battle continues, business operators in the metropolis insist that reasons for the proposed electricity tariff increase has nothing to do with the end users, especially when several businesses are still gasping for breath.
Well, that was a report from Lagos. Let's listen to Nigerians. We did a vox pop on the issue, and let's take a listen to what Nigerians said.
The increment is not favorable to all because we are not seeing the light. If the light available and we will pay, we'll be happy in paying it. But for instance, when they give you a big bill and the easy light, and you will be forced to pay it, you'll not be happy. And if you don't pay, they'll come and cut your line. And the issue of prepaid, initially, the hairline is free. You apply. Later, they said you pay 5,000 naira for one face, 75,000 naira for 3 face. On that note, even when you go and pay online, you take them 1 month, 2 months for you to get this prepaid meter done.
Issue of electricity in Nigeria is worrisome. Why should people pay for light that they are not using? There must be a constant light, and at least people should begin to enjoy, even though if they cannot give light 24 hours, let it be 18 hours. They will know that when the bill come in place, people are ready to pay.
If you want to pay NEPA bill, some would like to take the issue of NEPA bill to be their personal business. Then will be cheating you and collect the bill. The meter issue that they brought, we're happy for that because the meter is good, but some still on that, they still use the meter cheating masses.
Reactions there by Nigerians, and like we said, we can be part of the conversation through our phone lines and also the Twitter handle. Before I allow Prince Will and Ayodele speak, 3 more tweets here quickly. Also, I want to advise government and stakeholders investing in this electricity to make prepaid meters available to customers. This is the solution. If Nigeria can supply power to neighboring countries and they are enjoying it, why is it difficult to make it work here in the country? Ikpoza Michael says, discos are transferring estimated bills into prepaid meters and people are not using the power because discos put off such prepaid meters and they will tell you to clear the estimated bills on the meter before you can use power. Last on the series, calling for engineer Iyeku Salami Mohammed. Good evening to you and the men in the studio. Let us tell ourselves the truth. Firstly, those who acquired the assets are not businessmen, rather people within the corridor of power that took the advantage of then administration. They are not genuine investors, but rather politicians. Reaction?
I want to start from saying that the sector is not being taken serious. Nigerians are not really being taken serious. If you watch this country, Section 14(2)(c) of the Constitution says participation of the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Now, if Section 14(2)(c) says that, and the NEC, if you look at the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, in most of their regulations, it said with consultation with the customers and consumers. But how many customers are really consulted? How are they educated? Okay, take for instance, the enumeration the man from Ibadan spoke about. Who did the enumeration? How can you allow just the disc alone to do enumeration? He will give you the figure that will favor him. Now, who monitors and who evaluates? Shouldn't there be a way of involving consumers? Take, for instance, why not get the state governments? What is the Ministry of Power in various state governments doing, or Ministry of Rural Development? Can't they get enumeration of consumers in their states? Can't local government chairmen get enumerated figure of the consumers in their local government areas, and now know the households that are metered and the ones that are not metered? Now, you cut off state governments, you cut off local governments, you cut off community associations, you cut off consumer groups, and you just sit down and just say you have done this, and you want to force it down the throat of Nigerians. Remember, this nation is, democracy talks about justice, fair play, equity. And where you begin to deny citizens the right to participate in governance, you are not, it's no longer democratic.
Okay, let me hold that.
Hold on. Again, Constitution gave citizens a duty in Section 24. Section 24D says it is the duty of the citizen to participate in the development and advancement of the community where he resides. If I'm from a community and you come to my community every time to collect bills and collect money, but when it comes to decision, you don't involve my community association. You don't even involve the community people in discussion. So what are you doing? So you are seeing the citizens as slaves. You just enslave them, and then you are saying there is no liquidity. The question now is, what is the investment of the discos? Did they provide, how many transformers have they provided since 2013? How many wires and poles have they provided, irrespective of the money that government is borrowing and putting into that sector? Besides, World Bank, GIZ, many donors, many countries, organizations are giving loan for this sector. What is wrong in getting investors that have the money to come into the sector and help it to move? So if you look at the way the whole thing is done, I do not think that this sector, the way it is now, until consumers are taken serious, until this thing is taken like a major issue in the development of this nation. Don't forget the level of corruption. I give you one example. We are intervening for a community in Mbiri, in Mbitoli local government. I mentioned it the other day. This community had no light from 2014 to 2018, but they were made to pay 1.8 million outstanding bills. It was when we intervened. The DISCO said there is a security problem there. Which security problem? We said, have you told police? We had to go to civil defense. Got the civil defense, they invited them. It was the intervention of civil defense that now made them give light in March 2019. But between March 2019 and October 2019, the community has paid 2.60 million. And then they are saying they are now owing them 1.9 million. And they gave them bill as at October last year, 760,000. The people ran to me. And then we started petitioning. And when we started petitioning, it was then they now went to read the transformer. They never read that transformer.
Please, let me hold you there. Because of want of time, let's go to Ibadan, get a perspective from Ayodele, then we come and we need to have a direct. The purpose here basically is, as much as we are sustaining this conversation, we need solutions to the power sector problem in Nigeria. And we have stakeholders like experts, some of what is here, and also you say you're here, and Ayodele. So quickly to Ayodele, you have heard the reactions on tweets and even from the panel here, phone calls. The issue of metering, if I ask you, how fast can we resolve this in a few words? Because it's critical to sustainable distribution of electricity in Nigeria.
Much. The mandate given by the regulator is that within 3 years we must close the gap. But like Eweso said, closing the gap is one. What happens to the obsolete meters that were hitherto assumed to be functioning but are not functioning? As we speak today, we have 147,000 obsolete meters that do not comply with today's technology. In fact, every every 90% of fraudulent activities we discover within the sector had to do with these old meters. Apparently, even some of them, the vending machine that the old PCM was having in using to vend for those machines are even in the hands of some people. So for that reason, we need to change. In changing that, for 147,000 is costing us about 7 billion naira. That is money. Before that time, we had invested more than 8 billion in metering, yet we are nowhere. Anybody that looks at this thing, like Prince Will was saying that maybe we needed to involve people. It is the interest of the discourse to do enumeration. You can't be dealing with electricity and you don't know who your customers are. You can't shortchange yourself on it. You have to just do it right because you want to know who are your customers, including the potentials you have in the system. And so the enumeration captures not just existing customers, but potential customers that will exist. And in Ibadan, we have captured about 700,000 new customers and potential customers. So that is giving us the average of how we are going to close the gap. But in doing that, we have some old obsolete meters that people are vending without we knowing about it. So we have to change. That's about 147,000, and that is costing us over 7 billion naira, which we have to change, but we are not going to pass that investment onto the consumers. Now, back to the issue of metering. You know, we operate what I would call CAPEX regulation in Nigeria. Dr. Amadi will understand, even though sometimes they say it's incentive. But our capital expenditure per year is fixed, and fixed by regulation. So no matter what you want to do, you can't go beyond that. So that is another incapacitation that is existing in the sector. The other side of it, which is going back to what I think Dr. Amadi also said about the amount of energy available. There is this misconception, and I don't know where it's coming from. Oh, we have 7,000, we have 8,000, we have 13,000. To us, it's not there. Because by MITO, when MITO fixed the megawatt for 5,000, my company was supposed to be receiving 760 megawatts per day at any point in time. But since 2013 to date, we had never received 70% of that. Rather, we get 50%, 30%, 40%. There's nothing for us to sell. And if we have nothing to sell, the overhead becomes heavy because we still keep the same level of asset that we have to operate on. We still keep the same number of vehicles, yet we don't have resources, we don't have anything to sell. So that is already a problem for the sector. And the issue of meter, why meter had not gone well, was that if you look into the MITO and see the investment for metering, most of my customers, RU2 customers, maybe get electricity about between 3,000, 2,000, and maximum 5,000. That is what most people pay. So let's even take the upper end. If somebody is paying me 5,000 naira per month, the quantum of the money inside that 5,000 that will go into a meter, if I'm using it to pay for the meter, it will take me 23 years to recover my capital. So there is no incentive to go and borrow money. If you are saying you want to borrow money for metering and you come up with 23 years of paying, nobody is going to give you any loan for that type of thing. Most of the loans are available are commercial loans. And I quite agree with Dr. Amadi that if government can take over the responsibility of metering, even if that is the thing they will put in, it will help to drive the metering. Because like I said, no metering, no business.
Ayodele, just one word before I come back to Abuja. One word before I come to Abuja. I believe he's not hearing me. Now I'm back in Abuja here before I go back to them. Quickly, before I take on the way forward, because I have a few minutes. Kolawole Murele says, if they want to increase the tariff, we don't care. Give us 24 hours light. That's all. That's a concern. Yusuf Saleh, imagine me currently as I'm watching this program. There is no light. I had to use my cell phone to follow the conversation. This is pathetic and very worrisome. So let's say, what's the way forward?
Okay, I think first...
There are a lot of issues, but
exactly.
For want of time,
yes,
what's the way forward?
Simple. I think 3 points I would like to make. One, is that this is a time for us to strengthen regulation. These problems will not be solved by another power grab, take over from the discos, get other people to solve it. It's not true. What Ayodele has said is true, that even the discos are leaking, their pocket is leaking. Consumers are not faring any better. And the problem is simply a problem of liquidity. Like I said, the investment for meter in this market will require long tenure. It's going to take you long to recover. And only those who have the money can make that investment and make it on a bankable environment, knowing that things will be okay. Today, our investment climate is risky. Our regulatory certainty is not too guaranteed. You're not going to get this kind of investment, long-term investment. So what can we do? I think 3 things. One, like I said, regulators should be helped to be much more, active and provide leadership. For example, the area of trying to cap estimation is a way of helping complaint from consumers. The kind of complaint that Mr. Okori has mentioned in terms of governance, consultation, those are things the DISCO should take seriously. When we were there, we tried our best. We did a lot of consultations across the states. They should do, I totally agree with you. In the US, the experience shows that wherever there's more consultation, what we call the consumer democracy, when operators are faced with democratic engagement by consumers, they become more efficient. The prices are lower than when only the operator is talking to the regulator. And that's why the design of the regulatory process is more like quasi-adjudicatory. The interveners are there, which are the consumers. But the government needs to increase the capacity of consumers to be strong interveners, so the regulator will be fair to them. The second proposal I'm saying is that maybe this is a time for us to now deregulate, liberalize regulation. What I mean, NEC may now be allowed to do transmission grid regulation. Let states set up public, like in the US, public service commission, whose job will be to regulate the discos. Why is this important? For example, he's talking about replacement of meters. The discos should be making investment in the network day by day. But those investments can now be put back to the tariff. The kind of engagement that is required may have to happen at state levels. For example, why should Ibadan not be able to replace those meters and then go to the regulator and make a rate case and say, we need extra money in 3-4 years? The regulator talks to the consumers, because this power sector has to be solved one way. You have to inject financing, and that financing cannot come except there's a way to recover them. So I would argue that going forward, I think it's wrong for us to have one regulator, NEC, running consumer services regulation in all the country. As a long-term solution, maybe we should look at NEC like in the US as FEC, Federal Electricity Commission, whose job is to do with transmission, gas transmission, inter-region, grid. And then services at the states are left for the PSUs, the State Public Service Commission. Why is it important? It's important because in Imo, for example, the case might be different. So the governors can even make investment to support those metering gaps, infrastructure gaps. Then the state electricity regulator can have the capacity to engage with the consumers. We need to open up this system, liberalize it, decentralize it in a manner that the grid can be centrally managed, but the service component, the distribution mainly, can be regulated at the level of state. That would be the way to open it up to more investment, to greater engagement between consumers and the operators, with local regulators approving investments that may be done from time to time with increase of tariff. Let me say it further that I think that whatever we do, we shouldn't we should allow NEC to supervise tariff review from time to time, because ultimately we need investment. And if we don't have that regularity, it can quarrel with operators and consumers, but NEC, the investors will be happy to see a system where the regulator and not the government is engaging with the operator and the consumer. It gives them his confidence that whatever happens, if they're not happy, they can go back to the regulator, and the regulator can make it. So, but each time we hear ministers or other political appointees make statements about maybe we'll take off from the disco, we don't give discos, it creates a lot of uncertainty. So I would argue that this is a dispute that must be resolved between consumer. NEC should improve consultation, governance, credibility, with especially consumer groups. The operators need to be forced to do more. But ultimately, we need to put finance into the sector. Okay. And government can't do it. It must come from the consumers and the investors. Consumers need to have confidence. And if you get greater regulation clear to the people, you'll be able to get consumers to accept.
Let me get your perspective.
Well, thank you very much. I think when I'm looking at it from the angle of ensuring that we have the right meters, the right type, the quality and the accuracy, because that will go a long way to ensure confidence, because the apathy that you have between discos and customers in terms of estimated billing is equally there in terms of a bad metering system, whereby you have that somebody has been installed a meter, maybe he's been using a meter type before, like he said, he want to decommission, he's paying 5,000 naira maybe for even 1 month, but suddenly a meter has been changed, and the meter is changed, is dispensing more than what it is. At the same time, too, just like he said, a lot of advocacy. Some people don't even know. You are having power supply for 3 hours before. You are paying 2,000. But now you are having power supply for 9 hours, 12 hours. Definitely your level of consumption will increase. That's one aspect. The second aspect is that we must ensure proper installation of the meters that are being deployed. Because if you deploy if you close the metering gap today and the meters are not well installed, you find they will cave in, and at the same time you don't have them. And that's why we actually have been advocating to say that people should watch the type of meter they put in their houses. For example, if your meter, for example, do not have a seal of NEMSA on it, it has not been tested. That meter is actually fake, and you cannot guarantee the quality of how that meter will actually function. That's one aspect. Then the other aspect too is that the discos stroke the consumers and the customers definitely need to have a midway of how they meet. It's this question of one standing on his own, I'm right, and the other one, it can't solve any problem. I think all stakeholders need to come to the table and see the point of the other person so that this can be properly dealt with. It's because somebody say he's already have a cap on what he can spend in a year. Once he spend up to that level, he won't spend any other money. So, and this meeting really is capital intensive, and we then needed to make sure that it's done. Proper earthing of houses. I will say again too, if you don't have earthing in your house, like we've discussed before, even when your house's appliances are not on, your meter will read when there is a short circuit, there is a leakage in the house, because the meter sees it as a virtual load. So it's just a whole lot of things needed to be done in the sector to make sure that actually we are doing the right thing, and the consumers too should help by making sure they do not continue to do unwholesome activities. Somebody will go and tamper with the meter. For example, now they install meter in your house, somebody will go and remove the neutral and then use the app to do it. The man is now consuming power, but the utility company is not getting. So it requires a lot of re-engineering the metering system so that adequate financing is done and proper revenue is coming to the sector, and then it can then pay for the entire
Now, before I go to Prince Will, these last two tweets, because they have talked on issues of corruption, we have not had time to discuss it. Samson Shiru says, one of the major problems both the customers and discos are facing is internal corruption. There is high concentration of corruption in the internal structure of the discos, and until this is taken care of, even the investors will hardly gain.
Yeah.
Kar Fadewale to Mr. Ayodele, he should not just base the income on 5,000 naira monthly. Was the meter given for free? I paid nothing less than 30,000 to 40,000 naira before I got the prepaid. God bless Nigeria. God changed Nigerians' attitude towards truth. Quickly, please wait for.
I have some. Yes, we don't believe we should be criticizing without solution. In the first place, the association I represent, we've initiated 2 programs, which, by the grace of God, the current Minister for Power has agreed that we should collaborate with National Power Training Institute to run some training programs for consumer groups, for them to be able to, because nothing is set up to train manpower, skilled and unskilled in the power sector. But they have been concentrating on engineering aspect without looking at consumers' perspective. And Section 80 and 81 of Electric Power Sector Reform Act is on consumer protection and licensing performance standards. And those standards, consumers need to know them. Consumers need to know about Customer Service Standard of Performance for Distribution Companies, 2007. If they know these 2 things, DISCOs will be careful. But what we see happen is that the regulator don't even want consumers to know this. And when they give the enlightenment to DISCOs only enlighten you on how they will collect money. They are not enlightening the consumers to really know their rights. So I believe that consumer education should be taken to NAPTIN to be done. Let the government support NAPTIN for us to do this with them. That is at the community consumer level. And we are looking at consumer education in the electricity sector as corporate social responsibility. Banks are there. Oil companies are there, providing electricity, which the DISCOs have been set up to do. But if there is proper coordination, it wouldn't be that way. Secondly, looking at the SMEs, almost all the SMEs in Nigeria today are running with generator. Now, we've met with SMIDAN, and we have a program with SMIDAN now, where we will look at leadership of SME groups to develop their capacity to understand their rights as consumers, so that you don't just become an association and your members are suffering exploitation, suffering lack of power, and you are not doing anything.
Thank you.
And you go and say, bank, give loan to SME. Bank gives loan to SME. 80% of the money they would have used to pay back goes into generator.
Okay,
so with SMIDAN, I'm coming.
Yes,
I'm concluding. With SMIDAN, we are trying to do that. But finally, the independent electricity distribution networks that we are licensed by NEC. Take, for example, there is PIPP.
Please, I have to hold it, I'm afraid. Let's go to Ibadan now. Mr. Olede, just one word. What word of real assurance do you have for Nigerians? One word, no time.
Just give me 1.5. But actually what I want to say is that it is imperative and is the function of NEC to review tariff from time to time. It is their responsibility. We have missed tariff for more than 6-7 times. That is why this pressure is on the tariff. But what I ask Nigerians to do, if there will be tariff review, what will the operators, GENCOs, transmission company, DISCOs, what will they give Nigerians in return? That is what we should be asking for. If we are going to change our tariff, what are we getting in return? And make the operators to sign in that if you change this tariff to this level, this is what we will give you in return. That is what we should be demanding from the DISCOs.
Ayodele, Chief Operating Officer, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company. He joined us from Ibadan Network Center. Thank you so much for being on Tuesday Live tonight. And back in Abuja, let me quickly say we had it so good. We don't have all the time, but we have tried our very best to get to where we are. Prince Will, National President, Association for Public Policy Analysts and Power Sector Activists. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
And always a pleasure having
you would have given me more time.
Weso, MBCEO, Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation. It was nice having you on the program.
Thank you very much.
And last but not the least, Head of Department, Property and Private Law, Based University, President, Association of Law and Economic Studies, and former Executive Chairman, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And to those who sent in tweets, well, thank you so much for your tweets. For those who called, thank you for your calls. Well, that's it on Tuesday Live tonight. On behalf of all of us, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.